If you collect payment through Dubsado, there are a few simple reporting features. You can see a list of individual transactions, an overview in your chart of accounts, and basic visual graphs all inside the reporting tab. The transactions page is a ledger of all recorded income and expenses. Anytime a client makes a payment on a Dubsado invoice, it's logged as an income transaction. By default, the most recent transactions are at the top of the list. You can sort by a specific column using the gray arrows, or search for a particular transaction using the filters at the top of the page. Click on a specific transaction to see all the details or make changes to the transaction record. The transactions list will automatically include all payments made by your clients through a Dubsado invoice and all payments that you applied to an invoice manually. You can also log a new income transaction manually on the transactions page. While most income transactions show up automatically, expenses always need to be added manually here on the transactions page. Similar to applying a manual payment to an invoice, you can enter the amount, method, date, category, and description of the expense. You can choose to tie this expense to a specific project or leave the drop-down blank if it's a general expense. Lastly, you can add a record of sales tax payments that you've paid back to your local government. Because tax that you collected when a client paid your invoice is recorded as income, recording a tax payment in Dubsado is what balances that amount back out under your expenses, since the money you collected is not ultimately yours to keep. You can export a CSV of your transactions at the top of the page. If you have any filters applied when you export, the CSV will be limited to the filtered transactions only. Tip number 1. You can also add an expense inside of a particular project. Once you've added an expense, you'll be able to see your net profit on the project. The chart of accounts is where you can see an overview of all income and expenses by category for a selected time frame. Here, you can add different categories for your income and expenses, as well as view anything that's currently uncategorized. You can also update current categories using the gear icon. If you're editing a tax category, you can change the name or tax percentage. Changing the tax percentage here will not affect existing invoice line items, only line items created in the future. If you delete an income or expense category, all of the line items with that category will be moved to uncategorized. You can export a CSV of this tab as a profit and loss statement for your records. Tip number 2. For specific advice on which categories make sense for your business, we recommend reaching out to an accountant. Tip number 3. If you've already been invoicing but don't have income categories set up, an easy way to get organized is to view a list of uncategorized transactions and work your way through the list, adding categories as appropriate. Just make sure the time frame is set accordingly first. Under Reports, you can see a graphical representation of your income and expense information. It's basically a colorful view of the Chart of Accounts tab. You'll see a breakdown of your income by category in a bar graph, a breakdown of your expenses by category in a donut chart, a comparison of your income and expenses in a pie chart, and a graph of your total sales over time. The data used in the graphs can be filtered by time frame at the top. Tip number 4. If you'd like to create your own financial graphs, you can export raw data from the Transactions tab and input that data into a third-party application.